Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to the All Balls Sports Show. Brought to you in part by Truelove's Pizza and Grits at 1144 Riverside Drive. A discussion of any and all sports, local, regional, and national. And now, here are your hosts, Dan James, Eddie Bobo, Ty Cobb, and the coach, Vance Belew.
Thank you, Bill Jones. Welcome into the All the Ball Sports Show for this Tuesday evening, the 12th day of December, our final show for 2017. And glad to have everybody along with us. And Truelove's Pizza and Grits, thank you for being our sponsor. Didn't get a chance to see Glenn today, but I did sneak into the cooler and got our pizzas for tonight after the show. So, ooh. Glenn, I did get them. Someone didn't steal them. I just want to let you know. But, hey, smoke from Rocky Top since we last broadcast last Tuesday. We have a coach.
Man, a lot's happened in a week.
Yeah.
Lots happened. And we hired him from Alabama. Who would have thought it?
Or as they say
in
Alabama.
Anybody going to say anything but me?
No. Or is it say in Alabama? Who would have thunk it?
Yeah. I didn't see that coming. Did y'all?
I didn't see
No.
that particular hire coming, but
I think it's a recovery. I mean, from
I think
where
it's
we're at,
definitely a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, from where we were at a week, 2 weeks ago to now, we really hit a home run. I think to come out of that and get a good coach that's got a good background and has hit the recruiting trail hard since he's been announced head coach, and he's got some decommitments and getting rid of some that wasn't going to cut the slack. Cut the mustard.
I think what I liked about him was during the news conference, he made mention that he was going to talk to every single player on the team. And the ones who want to play will play, and the ones who don't won't. So that's basically saying we want that scholarship back, so, we'll find somebody else. I like that.
I do too.
I like that.
Yeah. I think Mac said it right too, though. We got to get behind him. Got to give him support. And give him some time, because it ain't gonna happen overnight.
No.
Georgia didn't have to give Kirby Smart much time.
No, but they had a whole lot of stuff.
So
in
I don't know
place.
what you talking about, Eddie. In time, I'm talking about. I want to see something in 2 to 3
No, but that
years.
wasn't. But that wasn't Kirby's. That wasn't Kirby's team. That was already in place.
I understand
when Kirby
that,
got
but
there.
You can't get to the Final Four if you ain't a good coach. I truly believe
But
that.
you've got to have the talent to do so.
Well, I think Kirby's got the talent.
Well,
I think he's
but
a
it
good
wasn't
coach.
his talent, is what I'm saying.
Now that's argumentative too.
Well, yeah,
we can argue that. I mean, he could have done the same thing Jimmy Pruitt's doing.
Well, I understand.
Because Mark Rich, he might have took some with him too. So
No,
Miami.
I don't
Look
think
what
so.
he's done at Miami. They were
but
undefeated
they were already loaded too.
And speaking of that, look what Miami did last night to New England.
He don't even have to go out of Dade County to recruit.
No, that's true.
No, well, he's got a good state to recruit from. I agree with that. But I'm just saying I hope that Coach Pruitt can do what
I think he will.
Kirby Smart's doing at Georgia, because I didn't think Kirby Smart would be that good that quick. I thought it would take him 4 or 5 years. And, of course, Pruitt's got a 6-year contract, too.
I like Kirby's intensity. He's very intense on that sideline.
He's gotten results.
He lets the players know who's in charge.
Do you think he'll be in the national championship game?
That's gonna be tough. I tell you, it would be very nice to see an all SEC championship.
Well, that's normally the national championship anyway. So
That's the norm. But it will be interesting. I do think Jimmy Pruitt is a Kirby Smart. I think he's that. Excuse me, Jeremy Pruitt.
I think Georgia has the capability of beating Oklahoma. I mean, they've got a pretty good defense and a good offense and stuff like that. And I mean, heck, we had them beat a couple of years ago and turned around and gave it back to them.
Break by Burke, baby.
So, you know, I think they got a good shot at beating Oklahoma and being in the final.
We're going to wait and talk about Alabama being back in the playoff picture when Coach Belew gets here. Yeah, when he comes sliding in, like you said, he's going to. In the meantime, we do have what?
I got a question for the panel.
Oh, okay, all right.
Who has the most national championships in football in college?
We should have the Jeopardy theme. I don't know.
Alabama's claiming it, but you can only go by the modern era on Alabama, because everything 1935 and further back is not counted anymore.
Oh, okay.
But if you go back to those eras, Princeton has 28. Yale has 26. And Alabama has 15.
Princeton?
Yes, Princeton.
Oh, well, okay.
So you learned something.
Yeah, this show is informative, my friends. Just keep that in mind.
I'm kind of excited about it, Coach Pruitt's recruiting coach. When you look, and he had a lot to do with Henry going to Alabama.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did. A lot of defensive players going to Alabama.
But looking at his record, he was 07, 09, he was Alabama. 2010 to 12, he was defensive back coach, and then he was back at Alabama in 16, 17.
Right.
But I think recruiting those solid players like Henry and others says a lot. So I'm pretty excited about it. I wasn't
Henry
at first,
speaks
but
well
I am
on
now.
him. Henry speaks well on him. He likes him a lot. I like Henry a lot.
Shame he was standing on the sidelines just Sunday.
Well, we'll get into that before the night's over with. Don't worry about
We'll
that.
get into Titans running game later.
That's true. Coach Dan LaFond and Coach Rodney Springer here from Columbia Lions Ladies Soccer Rugby, and you guys start like in the fall doing like what 7-on-7 is what you told me.
Yeah, this is the first year we've been doing 7-on-7 rugby, and it's our 6th year as a team at Columbia Central, and so we decided. With all the talent we've built over the last 4 years,
right.
Just our skill in general, it was time to compete also in 7-on-7 rugby. So similar to 3-on-3 basketball, they're shorter games, faster paced, a lot more scoring. And we had a lot of fun playing in the fall. And the girls really enjoyed competing. And we even played in the state championship and got 2nd place. So
cool.
It was the first cup we ever brought home, and it was awesome to see them compete at that level at a version of the game that they've never played, and then also beat some teams that they've not only never beat but also never even met before. So really great experience in the fall with sevens rugby.
So where was the state championship held?
State championship is always held at Middle Tennessee State University.
Really?
Yep. And for sevens, it's a tournament style, just like you'd see in basketball or volleyball. You know, the top teams from the state come and they play a round robin tournament, and we were the top team in the pool, and then we lost in the end to a team called Freedom Prep Academy from Memphis, who has a lot. Yeah.
By 1 score.
Yeah, by 1 score, and they have a lot of girls just like ours. Big, tough girls, great endurance, great speed. You know, pretty vicious. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
It was a great match. It really was.
Yeah, and it was really
straight razor toting.
I mean, it really was the first time that our girls had been face to face with a mirror of themselves, because nobody really brings that physical intensity like we do. When we get beat teams by if we get beat by like a Ravenwood or like a McMinn, County from the East, they're very technical teams, really, really well coached, really technical in their rugby, and so they'll kind of outsmart us as far as the game is concerned, because we're a young team, and I'm a young coach, and so learning all that aspect of it. But those Memphis girls, they run right through you. So it's pretty great competition.
But our girls do the same thing. I mean, there were several matches last year that I couldn't believe. I mean, they just absolutely just steamrolled over the top of somebody.
We really, these seniors this year, when they were freshmen, we had just come off our first time ever scoring as a team,
right,
when they were freshmen. And then when these freshmen came in that are now seniors, they came in knowing that, wow, we have something really great here. we could really make this good. And so those seniors who were freshmen 4 years ago worked so hard in these last 4 years, and now they've become such a unit and so close, and also just so fearsome. We would play teams in sevens who we'd come right at them, and that would be the game. I mean, the first 5 minutes, they just kind of give up, and they didn't really want any of the physicality. They were just like, you know what, you guys, it's yours, you can take it.
Really?
And like,
literally get out of the way of
our
girls
just
running the ball.
Just step to the side. Yeah, I mean, they
it
just
ain't worth it,
Yeah, I want to go on and have a family one day. I want to have all my teeth. So I'm gonna let Serena White, who's one of our big stud seniors, I'm gonna let her run by, and I'm gonna let her have that. So yeah, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And some of the games that you saw last year, those seniors who were juniors last year, really hitting that stride as a team and in their skills and in their confidence in themselves, and just completely steamrolling teams that at one time were competitive and I was hoping would be more competitive to make us better. But we're on the sidelines last year, and I was like, are they that bad or are we that good? And I really think that we became that good because these girls had worked so hard the last 4 years.
You have to look at the T-shirt. I don't know whether you can turn it to the camera, Rodney, but it says God made rugby so football players could have heroes too. How did Coach LaFond? I asked this of the 4 folks who came with him, or 3 folks who came with him last time, Rebecca being one of them. I said, how did he convince you to come on board as a coach?
Oh, I volunteered.
Did you?
Yeah, I have a stepdaughter who was really interested in playing, and I played in college at Tennessee Tech, and she had heard all of the rugby stories and of how it was the bacon of all sports. And I played a lot of sports in high school and played 1 year of college football, and got into rugby at Tech and just loved it. Well, we moved to this part of Murray County because I had to move for my work for the rugby team. And she wanted to play, and I've traveled with my job forever, and now I'm actually home every night and wanted to coach something, and so it just kind of worked out good. And then we ended up having 50 girls on the team last year,
wow,
which is like triple what most teams have. Yeah. So it worked out good. I mean, he needed the help, and I had the availability, and it's worked out pretty good so far.
Coach Springer was 2 years ago. I'll never forget it because I tell the story all the time because it was just like a wow moment. I got an email from a guy who said, "Hey, don't you have women's rugby? I mean, don't you have women's rugby at Columbia Central?" Mm-hmm. And yeah. Why? Why do you ask? Oh, my family's looking to move to the area, and we'd love for our daughter to play rugby. And I was like, whoa, that is a huge deal that a family has chosen our school and our community just so that their daughter could play rugby. And that's a huge deal for us. Yeah, so Coach Springer has been invaluable because, again, like I always tell the girls every single year, as soon as you play a minute of rugby, you played more than I played. And I was a lifetime football player who fell in love with rugby and with the hard work and the ethic and the family bond that's created. And Rodney played, and so he's got such a technical knowledge of the game to where I can go, Rodney, what do we do here? And Rodney explains it. So really awesome to have him coach. He helps out with the forwards, like the bigger players, the bigger, tougher girls. I focus more on the backs, the smaller, faster girls with passing skills, etc. So a really good addition to the coaching staff, and a guy that I will try to sign another 4-year contract with even after his daughter leaves. So we'll see. You know how sometimes the dad coaches are. So we'll see.
More coming.
I hope so.
More daughters.
Yeah, good
deal. Now, when you're doing the 7-on-7, how do you pick who's going to play in those games? I mean, obviously you don't play the same 7 every time.
Sure. So learning the game, learning this new version of rugby. We were certainly flying by the seat of our pants at first.
And we restricted it to the people who had played previously.
Right.
Oh, okay.
We didn't take any greenhorns, so we didn't have a big squad in the first place.
Right. So based on what we saw previously from past seasons, of course, even though it's a shorter half, 7-minute halves, it's still you're running the whole time. I mean, you just don't stop.
It's rock star rugby.
Yeah. Really so endurance is a really important thing, but also open field speed. Can you make a tackle? At the end of the day, it's 7 girls trying to tackle 7 individual girls at once. So
on the full field,
it's even more pressure to make your tackles, to make your passes. But I would say, looking at it from a skills standpoint, can they go? Do they have great endurance? Can they make tackles? And then finally, can they pass and receive? So. Based on that, and we've had so many great seniors and juniors and even some sophomores who have really stepped up skill-wise, and so it really wasn't hard fielding a team. In fact, we fielded multiple teams at several tournaments. Our JV team, in fact, won their pool at the Middle Tennessee State University tournament back in October. And it was just so funny because we're sitting there going, our JV team might win some games, and they won all of them. And then they had to play the number 2 seed from our pool. And the girls were like, "Are we gonna have to play each other? Like, are we gonna?" And I'm like, "We might have to play each other. I mean, if you keep winning." So, and we determined that if they had to play each other, we would just forfeit, and we wouldn't bang ourselves up. But
well, let me ask you this: if I just derailed. My thought process, my train of thought just it did, and I'll come back to that thought. But it's been fun for us to sit up there in the press box and not know anything about what you guys are doing and just learn right along with you. I mean, you obviously know, guys knows what you're doing, but we're sitting up there and we've taken every knowledge that we've had about football and basketball and every sport that we've ever done and just threw it out the window and said, well, let's try something new here, Eddie.
It took me,
and we got chastised by the officiating crew.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
For the
basically football
for the time for the what was the
Giving the
Score.
score.
for the score? Yeah, you'll get it. I mean, seriously, it took me, no joke, 2 full years of coaching and experiencing the games and watching to even begin to understand what is happening. And then probably just the beginning of last year, for myself as a coach, hitting my stride of like, hey, I can run all this stuff. I don't have to be calling, the other coaches that I'm good buddies with in the conference and for help and everything, and what the referees are signaling and what are the penalties and what's the result. So it takes a lot of time. Be good. Be nice to yourselves. It really is.
What they chastised us about was giving a score after we done got so many points.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, remember 70? We got up to 70.
Yeah. So we had gotten up.
So
was it Warren County? Who was?
That was
Riverdale?
Riverdale.
It was Riverdale.
So again,
Yeah.
Riverdale's got a.
And they decided to quit with about 6 minutes left to go.
Yeah,
So Coach LaFond gets on the phone, and I get this ring, and he says,
middle of the game.
He said, you might not want to give the score anymore. I said, what do you mean don't give the score anymore? He said, refs don't want you to do that.
I mean, because Dan James, when he gets in the box, he's gonna do the Dan James thing. He's like, Columbia Central Lady Lions 35, Riverdale Warriors nothing. And it was like 40, 50, 60, and the referee was just like, hey man, I get it, but you're beating him pretty bad. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's his thing. Like, he doesn't know, we don't know. But again, 2 years ago,
I know.
2 years ago, Riverdale was a powerhouse.
Yeah.
And they had
subbing our JVs in that game.
Yeah,
too.
they had a lot of they had a lot of seniors leave. Their coach is from South Africa, and so as soon as he called me on the phone, I'm like, oh god, this guy's from South Africa. Like, they're gonna be great. Like, they're gonna be so good this year because their coach, because South Africa, New Zealand, and those countries, rugby is so huge. And so the girls are all riled up, and then we come out and just it was a slaughter.
All right, my train just switched back on the track. So when will the TSSAA start sanctioning rugby? Is there any talk at all? Have you guys gone to Nashville?
From my understanding, there has been talks, but I mean, realistically, it's the governing body of rugby, which is USA Rugby,
right.
And then under the USA Rugby is Tennessee Rugby Association, which is governed by USA Rugby. It's those organizations reaching out and saying, hey, we really want to work together because we've seen how successful it's been in schools. And we would love to bring this together, again, for the betterment of the kids. Like, at the end of the day, if you make it about the kids, how can they say no? Because why else are we here? So I know that they have talked, but it's just a matter of compliance and insurance and all the things that everybody has to do. And we see both sides. Everybody's doing the same thing: concussion testing, sudden cardiac arrest testing. Coaches are certified and licensed and background checked and et cetera. Everybody's doing the same thing, just in a little different way. So honestly, Dan James, I think that one day when we are TSSAA, I will miss these days. Yeah. Because one of the nice things about not being TSSAA is that I get to set my rules. I get to say, hey, guess what? Your academic eligibility is based on your grade today, this week, tomorrow, your grade on that test. Your behavior is how I say it is, not how a document says that you can act, and detentions you can have in tardies. And I get to say your condition, your participation on this team is on my call, and nobody can tell me otherwise. And that's awesome, because then I get to create the culture that I want. And girls know it. They know that you cannot play rugby and mess around because you're going to be gone. And when people meet our girls and they interact, like, wow, you got such great girls. I'm like, yeah, it's because we're tough on them, because we have high standards and we're allowed to do that. Not that TSSAA has low standards. It's just that if a parent comes to you and said, hey, my kid's eligible because blah, blah, blah rule, the coach has literally nothing they can do, because the more feathers they ruffle, it carries on and carries on. And, you don't want to get principals, administrators involved. I mean, it's such a mess. And so we're free of that. And I really like that. So one day when we are TSSAA, I'm like, the good old days when I could just kick them off the team. So anyway.
And even on the college level, it's a club sport.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
really?
NCAA
Wow.
sanctioned on a college level. Yeah. I mean, they all have teams, but, I mean, those guys are, they're paying their club fees and stuff like that. They will get an intramural field to go practice on and stuff like that. So there's a few universities that help out, but I mean, even it's just not that big.
Yeah.
It's got a huge following.
Yeah.
But it's just not. It's not sanctioned institutionally. So
yeah.
I mean,
with the big universities, the bigger a school is, the less they're doing for rugby. Yeah. The smaller the schools are, the more money they're giving for rugby. And what you see is you even have different divisions now. You have D1, which is like University of Notre Dame, Penn State, Davenport in Michigan, all these big university schools, they all play each other. But then you've got like the Lindenwood universities and Life universities, the schools that are paying rugby scholarships, and they are killing people and destroying people because they're funding the sport. Yep. So it's pretty awesome to see. Our Siantra Miller went to Lindenwood University on a rugby scholarship. We have 2 players who have been offered this year, seniors, that will go through announcing it and doing signing days when they commit. But two more players who have offers made. So it's awesome to see. I really hope that the universities see it as an opportunity to expand, especially for women's sports. But even men's sports, I mean, it has such a huge following, and if they just gave it a little bit of flame, my goodness, it would take off, because the cost is so low. No equipment. Literally, it's insurance and facilities. And if they would just give this country a chance to love this sport, it would take off just insane.
Well, I can say this to all of our viewers of All the Ball Sports Show. If you hadn't had a chance to go out and watch a rugby game with Columbia Central, you need to go out there at least once. Because once you go the first time, you're going to be hooked on it. Because it's fun to watch these girls get out and absolutely annihilate each other. I mean, I'm not kidding you. They annihilate each other. And then turn around and go to a banquet where they're just acting like kids.
Right.
I mean, it's just incredible.
Yep.
Show them the junior rugby ball there.
So that's a size 3. That's for elementary and middle school kids. So ours is, of course, much bigger. Not much bigger, but a little bit bigger. So yeah, I mean, it's been a great experience. Love it to death. And I brought the junior rugby ball to show Coach Springer what it looks like and the size of it.
Right.
But something we'll be doing for the first time this year. To that effect of growing the sport and kind of getting the county excited about it, is we're going to start what's called Rookie Rugby. And what Rookie Rugby is a series of camps for elementary and middle school players. And they will come to the school, and we will run a camp for them. And there's a small fee for the camp, and every kid will get a ball, they'll get a T-shirt, we'll get them some Columbia Lady Lions rugby stuff. And to really churn the interest. Because all it takes to have a middle school team is somebody to go, I'll coach it. All it takes to have a men's team is somebody to go, I'll coach it. We have so much going on that we just can't have a men's team. Because as much as I want to do that, I know that I can't give any more time to that. And without taking away from the girls. And that's unfair. So I really hope that with the Rookie Rugby program that will grow the sport in Murray County and get more kids out and get more kids involved. So I mean, for the low cost that it has, I mean, we should have Pop Warner rugby leagues. We should have middle school teams. There's only 3 men's boys middle school teams in Middle Tennessee, and there should be more and more young women's teams. So I couldn't even imagine getting a freshman player who's played for 4 years, right? Like, oh wow, you can pass. Great, let's talk about formations and plays, and instead of like, okay, here's a pass, let's start. And every single player is ground 1, ground floor. So
fundamentals.
Fundamentals. So it'd be cool to have players with some experience.
So how do you go teach fundamentals to someone who has never played rugby before? You got to throw the ball behind you in order to advance it. I did learn that. And it just seems to me that would be the hitting part's not that hard, but the fundamentals of rugby would be something that has taken you 2 years to understand when you first started out. And of course, Coach Rodney, he's got it because he's been in it.
I learned it in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, better than me, Gunga did, I'll tell you that.
First match, I went to one practice, and then the next day was the alumni match, and in 5 minutes, I learned all the rules of rugby. Because in those 5 minutes, I did everything
Best
wrong
teacher.
that you could possibly.
Well, I can tell you what. I can tell you one guy that ain't gonna get down there and just
and bleeding.
no,
and
no.
You learn quick when you play.
So teaching the fundamentals.
If bleeding consists of it being in the press box, then that'll happen. But it's not gonna.
So teaching the fundamentals begins with expectations for the sport, and you tell the girls plain and simple. This is a full contact sport. This is a sport that requires the endurance of soccer, the physical interaction of football, and we know you want to play. You know, they all want to play. They want to be a part of it. They see all the kids, they see all the girls, and all the excitement, and the people that come to the games. They want to be a part of the experience. And I say, you know, the football team has the exact same problem that we're starting to have. Everybody wants to be a part of it, but they can't. You know, they don't know how to play the game. A lot of people want to play football, as Coach Belew will tell you. They want to wear the jersey and ride the bus. You know, they want to eat the cake, and Coach Taylor from Columbia Central calls them cake eaters and bus riders, right? They really can't do a job on the football field, but they want to wear the jersey. So I tell the girls plain and simple, you know, nobody. I would think that you don't punish yourself in these practices if you're not going to play at least, and you got to be able to do three things. You have to be able to tackle, you got to be able to pass and catch, and you got to be able to go for 30 minutes at a time. So you need endurance, you need ball skills, and you have to have the toughness to tackle. And so starting with the fundamentals is first a very frank conversation of, are you capable of doing that? Do you really think that you have it in yourself to go and bring another person to the ground? The girls that come in with the most skills are basketball players, because those girls are used to catching and passing, great hand-eye coordination. And that's the closest sport in relation to rugby because it is so much ball movement. You know, the soccer players, sometimes they have good foot skills. Volleyball players may have good swiftness. Softball players maybe a little better strength, but usually are farther behind in what we need.
At the same time rugby does.
Yeah, and so the first fundamental skill we work is passing, because we have to know. You know, we got to know, is this player completely uncoordinated and their hand-eye coordination is poor, is it good, etc. And essentially we teach it like bowling. So the whole concept of a rugby pass is that it...
See, man, you just blown the whole thing out of the water here. You're talking every sport there is, and now you're bringing bowling into it.
You got to bring in bowling for the passing. That's right.
I haven't heard baseball yet.
Yeah, right. So we start with the bowling metaphor because
golf.
We start with the bowling metaphor because the whole concept is that the ball rolls off your fingertips when you pass. And there's several different types of rugby pass. One of the more simple ones, especially for kids without a lot of strength, is you roll it off your fingertips. And so we start quite simply taking one hand and putting the ball on its side and bowling it to each other. And so getting this motion and learning this motion of, and that's how the spin is created. See, a lot of kids, they see the spin, they want to make the spin happen with their wrists. And of course, that's
teach Ty right now how to do it.
So Ty, if I were to teach you how to pass his rugby ball, I would say, yep, take it to one hand, and you, just like you were bowling, you would reach it back, and then you would then flip it to your partner. And so we do that over and over and over, and they stand in circles and triangles and squares, and they bowl the ball back and forth to each other. And I say, of course, you never see a rugby player bowling like that, so all we're going to do now is we're going to, again, over-exaggerate. We're going to put the ball on its top. And now I want you to put your hands straight out with both hands on the ball and flip it to the person to your side. And so now, again, it's rolling off the fingertips, and now it's both hands are involved, and it's now flipping. And then, of course, the last step is we bring it to the 45-degree angle. That's for a normal rugby pass, and then we go hips to hips. And so the ball travels across your hips. And, again, the same motion, but every time you change a step, it's like some of the girls just, like, collapse and break down, and they forget, like, the fundamentals. And so it takes longer with some kids. But
why invite Ty to come out and watch us?
Well,
it's just memory muscle.
Let's get him out there. Yeah,
I mean, we just do it repetition.
Yep. And some girls get it like that. You know, we have a sophomore this year who's going to play like our equivalent quarterback position, and she latched right onto it. And it's kind of like how I know, I'm teaching passing correctly, because this kid who was a freshman, is passing really well, really quickly. So some girls get right onto it. Some girls take longer. But honestly, in the fundamental skills, passing is probably the least important. Because when you're, for example, in the forwards pack, the big, tough girls, those girls aren't always passing the ball. I need those girls to be tough, go make tackles, go win possession of the ball. Mm-hmm. The little fast girls who are lined up as the backs, they have to have great passing skills. So
be the bowling ball.
yeah, and when there's 15 positions, it's nice because you can have a variety of skills at each position. So it's pretty cool.
Cool. And you got 50 girls to choose from.
It's a nice talent pool, definitely.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Coach Belew, when last we spoke 2 weeks ago, it's been a couple of weeks since you were here. When last we spoke, Alabama was not even in the top 4 of going to the national championship.
But we had a feeling they would slip back in. We thought that. All I got to say, Coach, is roll, balls, roll. Jeremy Pruitt. Roll, balls, roll.
Did you see that post on Facebook?
Yeah. About the coach,
Yeah.
I feel real good because I think Tennessee avoided a disaster. They recovered. They had a football coach hire a football coach. So
yeah, I would agree with that. They've got some things that got to be patched together still, and I think Fulmer's going to help with that a whole lot.
So I've got to tell you this while it's on my mind. Because for the past 3-4 weeks, maybe since Butch Jones started sinking, all my Alabama fans have been blasting me with texts and this and that. And even up to when the Ohio State coach and all these other coaches were rumored to come into Tennessee, I was getting my phone blown up from all these Alabama friends I have. But when we hired Jeremy Pruitt, I didn't get a single text. And I said, I told my wife, I said, I know Tennessee has hired a good coach. You want to know why? She's like, why? I said, because not a single one of my Alabama friends has sent me a text, and I'm waiting on the first one, and I hadn't got it yet. And that's the truth. What do you think?
I agree. I think you did get a good coach, a very good coach. And Tennessee didn't make a mess of the coaches search. They were just being thorough. That's what it was all came down to. So they looked at everybody as intensely as they could.
Now, what was that? Fulmer looking at everybody as intensely as they could, because Curry screwed the pooch on it. I mean, he really did.
Yeah, I
They're
agree
going to be
with
paying
that
for that.
Yeah.
Well, he did, and Tennessee's going to be paying for that for quite some time.
That was so disappointing.
Not the news that come out today.
Really?
Sciano ain't gonna get no money.
Yeah, they said it wasn't binding.
Oh, okay.
Wasn't binding.
Okay.
Only one signature from Tennessee was on that contract, and that was Curry's.
Oh, okay.
The finance officer who has got to sign off on it, his signature wasn't on it, and the chancellor's signature was not on it.
I think it'll have legal review, don't you? I mean, I agree with you, Eddie.
They may have a legal review, but he ain't gonna get nothing.
I hope you're right. I was surprised that, and I guess it's because Coach Pruitt has not been a head coach, but his contract was around $4 million for 6 years, $4 million each year, $24 million deal for. I thought he might get more than that, but it's probably just because it's his first job and it's tied to incentives, of course, but it's still a good payday.
They've got to wait and see if Tennessee people are going to like an Alabama guy, and all that stuff's got to be.
Well, if he does before you got here, we were talking about Kirby Smart, but if he does what Kirby Smart's done in 2 years,
he will be a really good coach. I'm telling you, because I really do. I think this is not an anti-UT thing, but I think Georgia was in better shape than Tennessee was.
That was a point that I tried to make.
That's what I was trying to make.
It's a point I tried to make beginning of the show, was that they were in better shape talent-wise than Tennessee is right now.
And Tennessee's got to have some patience.
Right.
And
I agree with
I
do have
Fulmer
patience.
can help with that a whole lot. More than anybody else they could have.
All right, come on, guys, jump in here.
Yeah,
This is a sports show.
As the athletic director, I mean, they made up for letting him. I mean, they jumped the gun big time on Fulmer. I mean, he did great. Then he had one or two bad seasons, slipping and boom. I mean, I think they jumped the gun on it a little bit, and they've been paying for it ever since.
The big payback, but the big payback was the guy that got him fired is the one who was fired to put Fulmer where he is now.
I know.
Karma.
That's what I'm saying. They kind of made up for that whole debacle.
And meanwhile, back at the ranch.
Yeah.
Then you got the Chancellor of UT, but we won't talk about it.
Yeah.
We'll leave that alone. Don't put her in a press conference, please.
But anyway, all right. Of the 4 teams that are in it, what's your predictions, Coach?
Rose Bowl will be Oklahoma, where the wind comes whipping around the plane, against number 3 Georgia.
So this is the last time we do this before they
Yes.
play. Wow.
Yep, it is.
I really wanted to put that off for 3 weeks. I think right now, I think Clemson would beat Alabama.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do. But I think in 3 weeks' time, it
Saban
could
will be ready.
Yeah.
I mean, coming off of defeat like that, Alabama,
Alabama usually
after a
comes
little wake
back.
up call like
Right,
that.
right.
Can
You
Georgia
know
win
Saban
it
ain't
all?
being
I don't think
gentle
you.
on those guys.
I don't think you
I
slapped Saban in the face but once.
No, that's how I feel.
mean,
about
really,
it too.
really.
I'm an Alabama fan, always have. But I mean, even during their bad days. But I mean, that whole thing with Auburn. I mean, they didn't have a hard schedule this year. I mean, they didn't have a hard schedule at all. I mean, I wasn't surprised to see Auburn beat them. As hyped up as Auburn was, and as relaxed and comfortable as Alabama has been playing, and I mean, they hadn't played anybody hard. So, but after that loss to Auburn, Saban's going to turn the heat up on them a little bit. I think they're going to come out and be ready to play. I really do. I think they'll top Clemson.
Well, I think I think right now Clemson's better. I really do. But
Now
the 3 weeks could
the
make a
Oklahoma,
huge
Georgia
difference.
game. What's your predictions there?
That's hard to say.
Well, I'll be honest. I was leaning towards Oklahoma quite a bit. But Howard Stone had a good point in that he thinks Georgia's linemen are better than Oklahoma's. And so he may have a good point there. He's watched them more than I have. And I'd love for it to be Georgia and Alabama in it. That'd be a great.
Oh, wouldn't it be? Wouldn't it be?
But
all the rest of the nation can.
that's what I'm saying.
They
Two
can do
SEC
something else.
powerhouse.
Yeah, they can watch the NBA that night.
CBS or whoever does not want an all SEC.
Oh no,
The SEC will
and
make
I
a
want
lot of
yeah.
money if that happens.
they breathed a huge sigh of relief when Auburn got beat by Georgia.
Yeah.
The last thing they wanted was have to put Alabama and Auburn both in it. And I can understand that a little bit. That rematch would not have been good for the rest of the nation. It'd been great for me. But
I see Coach LaFond is sitting here not saying a word because you're a fan of whom?
Lady Lions Rugby.
We're talking.
not around here.
Wait a minute.
I grew up.
Let me pull the ripcord on the parachute. Hang on.
I grew up in a Chicago Bull. I grew up in a Chicago household in
Right.
Michigan. We were Southwest Michigan, so it's too far. We were closer to Chicago than Detroit, but Chicago Bulls, Chicago Bears, University of Michigan Wolverines. I mean, that was that's what I grew up with, and I just like in conversations like these, like I just don't keep up with it anymore. Truly, teaching and coaching is so all encompassing that for me to sit there and watch and analyze and I just now that I have 2 young children, I just don't have the time.
Oh yeah,
so.
speaking of that, the new baby
New
baby came.
Yep, 3 weeks ago. Little Emerson Jean. She was born on the same day. I couldn't go to our state tournament because she was born on the same day the girls brought home that cup. So
Good deal.
so that was pretty special. But so now father
Second
again.
place for his second baby.
Second place, second baby. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I don't have a horse in.
We were
that
hoping
fight.
first place for his first girl. But
Yeah. right. That would have been better.
Coach, you weren't here when I polled the group here. Which college team has the most national championships in football?
Oh, Alabama, if you keep count right.
Wrong.
No, if you count right.
No, wrong.
Yeah, it is, too.
That's in the modern era. I'll give it to you.
If you count the right ones, then it's Alabama.
No.
If you make up ones,
No.
then
If you go if you go back from teams prior to 1935 and get all of those champions, and then bring them all the way up. Princeton has 28.
Yeah, but
Yale has 26. Alabama has 15.
But if the rule is, if people rode horses to the ball game, they
But-
count.
But here's the thing. See, the way Alabama counts is almost like the rest of the United States don't count because they weren't a part of the original 13 colonies.
Yeah.
So,
Here's Princeton counts 3 of theirs when it was only them and Harvard is the only 2 schools that played football. That counted as a national championship.
Well, still,
Which, if I was
still
Princeton, I would too.
Take those 3 away. Still, though.
All right. You win. But I'll say this very important thing. I'll root against Alabama if Georgia plays them in a championship game.
What?
Yeah, got to. Yeah, everybody's got to root for Jackson Harris.
Jackson Harris, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jackson
yeah.
Harris.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Georgia fan.
Absolutely.
All Jackson's
So
there.
good luck to Jackson.
Yep.
Hopefully
Good
they
kid.
get there. That would
And
be
hopefully
great.
we'll get to play some.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something I want to mention, Eric Belew is teaching at Game Time Sports.
He is.
Is he teaching fundamental football or something along those lines?
He is. He's doing the football drill specific things that have taught there at Game Time. He's still coaching at Lewis County, but he's doing that on the
Right.
side at Game Time. He just released a video showing that.
Yeah, I saw that on Facebook today. Yeah,
Yep.
way cool. So give him a call at Game Time Sports and Training,
Yep. He's got all kind of drills all lined up and ready to go.
except for old guys like me.
Oh, yeah. We want people under 30 anyway.
Well, I'm
You want me to
double that
remove a
plus.
dagger from your back?
No. I'm double that plus 3. Thank you very much.
I was including myself.
Wipe that off your face. I think
Well, I'm just bleeding a little bit. It's not much.
I do want to ask Vince, have you ever had to call the PA announcer while you were coaching on the sidelines?
No, other than to say, get them to turn the lights back on, Dan. Did have to
There
do
he
that,
goes.
which I don't know why the official didn't do that. Just cut the lights out. I mean, that would have been. You would have got that message.
He cannot go 12 months without bringing that up. But by the same token,
2-0.
we're 2-0 when the lights go out.
Right, I'm not
Lights
There you
complaining.
go.
Huh?
Just
You know,
saying.
Respect the streak.
Just
part of the
saying.
game.
Yeah. So what we'll have to do one night is turn the lights out, and we'll.
It's a switch.
I know. And believe me, we know where it is
Yeah.
too.
There's 2 switches.
2 switches. It's so goofy.
Yeah, it really is because they thought
Couldn't turn the lights on.
Yeah, that's right.
the Tullahoma
2 o'clock in the morning.
the Tullahoma individual thought it was so funny that he was going to turn my speakers off on that side of the
Really?
field. Oh yeah.
And think about it, he was he's normally an official,
Yeah, the TSSAA.
TSSAA official.
I don't know that.
I never knew that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I found that out.
He had the night off, and
Yep, he was over there watching the game.
watching the game, and
Yeah.
It was rugby.
Girls rugby.
I like it. During an NBA game. That's awesome. Oh,
Playing
is
in
this
the
an Army
snow.
commercial? Hang on.
Yeah, Army.
Dang, good
yeah.
for them. That's awesome. I was like, girls in the mud, tackling, stripes, it's rugby.
All 4 branches of the military have
Dan,
girls
up
rugby
at-
team.
Oh, Marines.
At
Yeah, I was about
West
to say.
Point and at Navy, they play speed football, which is 175 pounds and under,
Oh.
and rugby, and they've got their own fields for that.
I didn't know that.
All
That's-
branches
up
of the
there.
military,
Pretty
not
neat.
even the academies
Pretty
have
neat.
their own rugby teams.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
that's pretty awesome.
And Drake, remember Drake Fleming played?
Oh, yeah,
Played up there.
yeah.
yeah, he loved it too.
Yeah.
He said he absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it's a good time.
So what is your official job, Coach Rodney, of teaching these girls?
I like he said, I coach the forwards. I do the fundamentals on the tackling and what to do, scrum techniques, rucking. The things that the forwards typically do the most.
Director of player development.
Basically, yeah. And motivator.
Yeah.
We have an ongoing thing. We have nice coaches jackets, and any girl, and I have a tackling dummy, and that we do a rucking drill, and they hit me with the dummy, and any of them that can knock me down gets my coat. So
He's still on.
Really?
yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So that's an ongoing thing. No one's yet to be able to do it. Few come close, but
They come close.
they do come
I
close.
see you getting
Serena's
rocked
come
over there.
close. Duncan hit me off guard one time and about got me.
She's strong.
So, but yeah, I still got my coat.
Do you have to go all the way down or one
To the ground.
knee?
No,
or?
I have to go to the ground. Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
and I race them in wind sprints because I'm a big old man, and it kills them when I beat them in the wind sprints. So and it's just basically because, like I said, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of players, and we have to do. Our weight room is only so big, and so we'll have half the girls need to go up on the field and do the basic, the dynamic drills and stuff like that, while the other half is working out. So, I'm just basically an extra hand to help him on the weights. And a lot of them, when they were doing their weights, they weren't really
trying.
Well, they weren't trying,
Yeah.
And I've increased a lot of their benches and squats by 20 and 30 pounds each just because they didn't think they could do it.
Yeah.
And they were not getting their hands right in the on the bar, and it was being overbalanced to one side. And so just basically kind of teaching that kind of stuff.
Last year we got so big in numbers that we had to split practice. I mean, we just couldn't effectively practice with all the varsity girls, with the first-year players and second-year players. I was like, Rodney, we're going to split up, man. Like,
That's a nice problem to have.
Oh, it's a great problem to have. So Rodney took a lot of the JV girls and really broke down fundamentals with them. And, he's kind of like the who's coming up guy. Like, Rodney, how's this girl? How's she looking?
Right.
Looking for subs, looking to put together JV teams. So it's just been nice because I haven't been able to do that with any coach in the last 4 years because they just don't know the game. And you can't put the girls up there with somebody who doesn't know the game. So it's been really good addition.
All right, so other than Rodney, who do you have? Is Rebecca still on? I mean, she's going to have...
Rebecca is...
she's going to have a baby.
She's 8 months pregnant, right?
Yeah.
So our little girls will be great friends until they're 16. They fight over a boy, but...
Try 13.
It'll probably be one of the other coaches' sons in the school. But anyway, so she's due in January, so she's kind of taking the year off.
Right.
And she'll still be kind of helping in the background stuff, she helps like in session and that kind of thing. But she'll be taking leave. And then AJ McCollum, who was our National Guardsman, who teaches construction at the school, he was like the strength and conditioning coach. He'll be helping out as well. And but for the most part, it's Rodney and I running the show. So it's a good time. We have a good dichotomy.
Yeah.
What I can't figure out, and Eddie and I have talked about this on many occasions, your girls learn to tackle waist down.
Right.
Okay. Why? And I say this just blanket. Why is my phone ringing? And I have no idea who that is, folks. But anyway, thank you for calling. Have a nice day. Why would the football team not ask you guys how to properly tackle? Because we're seeing it. He and I are seeing it a lot. And even in pros and even in college, you can't arm tackle. There's just no way. Your girls are getting them around the waist and taking them down.
Right. I think the first thing, let's put ourselves in a hypothetical situation where Jason Hoth, who is a great guy, I love him. We're good buddies. We're always jabbing at each other in the hallways. We have a good relationship. Let's say Jason Hoth did say, "Hey man, listen, we need work with tackling," which most teams do. Right? There's not really a lot of teams that are really great. All their defenders are great tacklers. But if he said that, I'd be like, all right, well, we gotta have to set a few ground rules. One, you gotta take the pads off. Well, I can't do that, coach. Well, if you want to learn how to tackle right, you have to make these kids unlearn 8 years of bad habits. And what Jason Hoth and all high school coaches are fighting right now is the highlight reel mentality. These kids...
And it's not their fault.
No, exactly. These kids want to hit somebody and knock them to the ground. That's how they want to make tackles. They want to stick somebody, get cheered at, get the highlight tape, share it on their social media, and look awesome for 10 seconds. They want to do it like, a barbarian. They don't want to do a safe, broken down, smart tackle that maximizes their energy output and also keeps them, safe. In rugby, it's all about shutting the legs. And a lot of the ways that they teach tackling is you use the inertia of the running player and just close their legs and let them fall. The less energy you can output and take somebody down, the better. Because
how simple is that?
Well, and that's the thing. But these boys, they put on the shoulder pads, they put on the helmet, they put on the mouth guard, they get all their armor on. Like, I'm gonna go knock somebody over, and sometimes they do. But you know what? I know that you two have seen that kid stand flat-footed and then doesn't make a move or gets run around because he's afraid of diving and missing. Because what these kids want is that highlight reel, and what they don't want is to be embarrassed. They are so afraid of missing tackles that you won't even see them try sometimes. They literally won't lunge. They won't make a move. what they don't want to happen is what they call, somebody breaking their ankles, right? Getting juked, falling over. Like, there is no more shame in a high school boy's mind than getting juked by a guy and falling over. I mean, that is like the worst thing that could possibly happen to you. So we would be erasing 8 years of that, watching these pros and college players, make these crushing hits and pushing kids out of bounds. And it's tough, man, because tackling is really so simple. Staying low, closing the legs, getting your head out of the situation, and these girls do it every day. And I mean, so that would be step one. Jason, we got to take the pads off, buddy. And if they're afraid of getting hurt, then they're doing it wrong.
Well, in rugby, you got to think past the tackle because the play doesn't stop once the tackle's made.
Yep.
Football, they come in and they make the tackle, and then they can throw themselves. They can knock themselves out of play, and then, they get up and huddle up and run another play. In rugby, you tackle, you immediately get back up, the ball's still in play.
Right, yeah, and that's a really good point.
Yeah, so, I mean, you have to think past the tackle in rugby, and so it's more important on the fundamentals because you can't just throw yourself at them and roll 10 feet off and slowly get up. I mean, you got to get up and be in your position after the tackle.
All right, let me ask you this: Can you teach the tackling technique if he took the pads off? Let's just say for 1 week we're not going to have pads. We're going to learn how to tackle,
right?
And then put the pads back on and tackle the same way, or tackle the new way.
Again, you know how it is with habits.
Yeah,
they become so ingrained in a player's mind.
But is that something they've learned through Pop Warner and everything else?
I mean, when they come up, that's how they are. I mean, when they come up, being the freshman coach for 5 years, they came up and they just don't know how to tackle correctly. They want to go and hit it. They think that hitting hard is tackling. And maybe their athleticism carried them through Pop Warner middle school, and maybe it didn't. But they don't come up with good tackling skills. And in a year, 2 years tops with us with rugby, if nothing else, if they can't pass, can't catch, can't run for half an hour, dang it, they can tackle.
Right.
Because the girls that are afraid of contact, they go away. They don't stay participating. Right. So tackling is it's really such a simple thing, and especially in rugby where it's not so much high speed, it's just constant speed.
But you've got 50 girls But you've got 50 girls now who want to do that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Wow.
I mean, yeah. Those are the ones that get to play, or the ones who after
But it's like
working
anything
out
else.
some issues.
Who teaches the stiff arm?
So, and in rugby, and the sport is so concentrated on safety that even things like stiff arm, the fend, right, is so heavily regulated where, you can only have a straight arm, right? If there's any motion like this, chest or higher, it's a penalty because it's dangerous. You really can't even fend to the face, even straight armed. Again, if your arm is out and somebody runs into it, referee's got to make a call. But, it's just a matter of you got to be smart, and safety is number one priority. And literally, it's both offense and defense. Nobody has an obligation. The only time an obligation exists is when, for example, if you tackle a player and you pick them off the ground. It is literally a rule in rugby that you have to set them down lightly. If you drop them to the ground, it's a penalty. You lose possession.
It's like wrestling. Your knees got to hit the ground first.
Yeah. And it's just it's interesting to be a part of a sport that is so focused on safety that it is built into their rules, and you have to coach it right, or else the kids won't play or they'll be penalized.
Because there's no blocking, there's no hitting in the back.
You can't hit somebody who doesn't have the ball. You can only touch players who are playing the ball, either if they're holding it or if they're what's called the ruck for possession over top of it. That's the only time. Otherwise,
lots of bangs and bruises, but there's very little injury.
Yeah.
All right, when is our first rugby game here at Lindsey Nelson?
So, in the calendar, penciled in, Friday, February 16th, we'll do a big jamboree like we did last year. We'll bring in men's teams, women's teams. We'll make it a whole night thing, and everybody will get to play, and that'll be our first big step into rugby. We actually have girls trying out for the Tennessee All-Star team for sevens.
Wow.
And also a U19 regional South team, Georgia, Florida, North and South Carolina, Tennessee.
Cool.
To compete in Las Vegas, March 1st to 4th. And I've booked my plane ticket. I'm going.
Yep.
Going to Vegas. Rodney.
I don't think I can. I'll probably be in the middle of a
going
move.
to Vegas and a rugby
really?
game will break out
Yeah,
somewhere.
go to Vegas and a rugby game will break out.
So we have three girls trying out for that, and
cool.
And again, they're trying out because the other coaches are like, you got it, you girls have to come out. We need your girls. We want to have them. And so finally, I was like, hey, you guys should try out. Like, people want you, they're looking for you, and it's a great place to get seen by colleges and other teams. And so we're going to Vegas on March 1st through 4th, and then it's all 15s after that. Yep. So pretty exciting, man. This is the year. We're going to play in a state championship in 15s. I'm saying it right now. You're here first.
Cool.
So that's our goal.
Put Ravenwood out of it.
Well, you can tell Eddie and I are fired up about it.
Yeah,
we like it. We like it a lot.
We love the Tron board.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
All right, guys, what you got? What's fire department doing right now? You doing something? You did something with? Didn't you do something with kids, with toys and stuff like that?
Oh, well, they had the shop for a cop breakfast at Puckett's over the weekend.
Okay.
So it's a lot going on, but I guess it's the last show at the end of the year. We've had a good year, and
I can't stand this.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Hey, where'd that $1 million fire truck we saw in the parade come from? Man, that thing is neat.
Your tax dollars.
I know that. So I own a piece of that bumper.
You own a piece.
I don't know if it's the bumper or not you get. But
Well, that's cool. That is really cool. That's what y'all brought Santa in with.
Proud to have that. Yep.
Yeah.
And it was a hit too. I've heard a lot of good feedback. Nothing against Aaron's Fox, but something about being on that big ladder truck and Santa in the bucket got a lot of attention.
Is that
too.
the same ladder truck y'all dangled the American flag from?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And how many stories will that one go up?
7.
Okay.
Just depending on the angle.
Right.
6. Just depends on the angle and where you're positioning it at. So.
Have you had a chance to drive it yet? I know you used to be a driver.
I used to be. Boy, that's a good question. I think I've drove it once or twice, but it's been a while. I mean, well, it's not that old. I don't get to drive. It's been a while since I've drove the fire truck. I think it's been at least
a sore spot.
We'll see.
That
is a very important, fun job. But trying to think, when I made captain in 08, or I hadn't really drove since then. So it's been about 10 years. Wow.
Yeah.
So let's finish up and talk. Who's going to win the championship? We got to finish there. I'm going to shock everybody. Alabama's going to win it all. Now you go, Eddie. And then we'll finish up with Dan.
I'm going to go with Alabama also. And, and I got a hankering. It's going to be an all SEC final.
Might be. Chipper, what do you think?
I'm going with Alabama.
I'm gonna go with Georgia. Got 2 with Jackson, and also
Georgia can do it.
Yeah, I think so.
I think Georgia could do it too. I mean, it just depends on how the wind blows that day.
Yeah.
I think Georgia's got a better chance.
So you're
saying how healthy they come out of their matchup.
So, Coach, you're taking Georgia for it all.
Yes.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
I'm kind of like Coach Rodney over here, though. I think Saban getting slapped in the mouth by Auburn.
It don't happen.
Check outside and see if Nostradamus is out. I think he just come up with a new ending of when the world's going to be.
I'm telling you, guys, y'all need to write this down on the calendar. When Coach Belew did not take Alabama to win,
I
What
think
about
Alabama's
Clemson?
a good pick too. And they're good. All 4 of them are good.
Clemson's been there, done it.
Yeah. It won't be Ohio State. I know that. That's the only thing I know for sure.
A little dig here.
Yeah, a little dig. But I didn't want to get this in. First ever wrestling match next Tuesday night at Central High School Gym.
Yeah, I want to go to that.
Yep.
Yeah,
that should
what
be
time?
good. 6 o'clock.
Cool. Yeah, Coach John Sandella, we teach together, and he's a really good guy. He's done a really good job. So.
Now, let me explain something. Let me explain something, folks. It's wrestling
That's
at
right.
Columbia Central. It's wrestling on Monday Night Raw.
No turnbuckles or anything like that.
No hitting over the head with chairs.
No atomic elbows.
Yep.
Yeah.
No diamond cutter.
That's right. Bowling district tournament is January the 3rd
Okay.
at the Galaxy Lanes here in town. Basketball's at Marshall County tonight, and I'm leaving, and swimming's in their about the middle of their season right now. They'll have another match coming up in January, and somebody help me, I left something out. I know.
What other sport do you have in the fall?
Well, basketball is not mine. I got my 3 sports.
Okay.
Yep, I guess that's it. Both basketball teams are playing tonight. Maybe that's what I was thinking.
Playing in Marshall County.
Yep.
And we'll be back on the air when?
We were back in January. Not sure.
7 o'clock.
Thank you very much. That's it. Dan LaFond, Rodney Springer, thank you very much.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Oh, yeah. No problem. Make sure you check out the 16th. We'll have our jamboree for Columbia Lions Lady Rugby. It's always a fun time. So for everybody on the show, we're out of here. Time for Truelove's Pizza and drinks.